I'm going to talk about investing in your mixed faith marriage. How are you investing in your mixed faith marriages? Our marriage is dynamic, alive, always changing, always evolving. And I think it's really important to ask clearly, how am I investing in this marriage? A lot of times how we used to invest in it as it changes and evolves doesn't suit the marriage anymore. How are you investing in your marriage? Is it really nurturing the marriage? Is it creating dividends? Are you getting the payoffs that you're looking for? Our marriages are like children, that they're constantly changing and growing. They're in constant need of feeding and love, right? So again, question, have you really invested in your marriage? I mean, really, have you invested in your marriage? Have you ever thought about thoughts like, I've invested enough, I've done enough work. You've reached some sort of quota. I've spent enough time, money, therapy, whatever. It's good enough. As if there was a quota that you've reached and then there's no more benefit or dividend that you can receive in return. I know some couples are very consistent with dating. Don't have none. Now, that doesn't mean you're investing or you're not investing, because there are many, many ways of investing in your marriage. How do you invest in your marriage? How do you nurture your marriage? Now, date night may be a great investment for you, but is it enough? I learned for me, it's not always enough of an investment, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Now, I can't tell you what's enough of an investment. That's 100% up to you, and only a question you can really answer, because you know if you're creating what you want to create in your marriage or not. What I can suggest to you is that investing / nurturing in your marriage can be the difference between having a mediocre marriage and having a great marriage. It's a significant difference. There is a huge difference in your personal satisfaction when you have an okay marriage and you have a great marriage. The quality of life, it just doesn't compare. So I want to share with you some of the investments I've made in my marriage to give you some ideas. And a lot of times we really struggle thinking outside the box of date night. Now, the first one, I consider it to be perhaps the most powerful investment we can make in our marriage, and it's personal development. And you may be like, well, what do you even mean by that? That doesn't even make sense. But I want you to think about me or any individual really willing to show up and stretch, grow, do hard things, develop, become more of who you are. All of these things help your marriage tremendously. And they do for a variety of reasons. And I'll just give you an idea of some of the reasons why they do. But one reason personal development is such a powerful investment in your marriage is because you become a more interesting, complete, independent person. You're growing and developing your skills and talents. You're interesting, you're healthy, you're alive. Your life is not your marriage, but your marriage now becomes part of your life. And that makes for a very interesting partner. That makes for a marriage that isn't being needed to fulfill you, but it's part of a larger life that you find fulfilling. It changes things significantly. So personal investment in myself has been the single most powerful and important way I have invested in my marriage. It also looks like things like personal development can look like career development. It can look like developing skills and talents. It can look like growing a business. It can look like getting therapy. It can look like getting coaching. These are all really powerful ways of personal development. Running, yoga class, all of these things are part of personal development. Okay, those are all things that I think are really important and things that I've done that have been investments in my marriage. Other thing, there's two main categories how I see it for me that have been really helpful. One is this personal development category, and the other one is shared activities. When I talk about shared activities, a great example of this would be date night, right? For me and my husband, a lot of times date night is going to a restaurant and having a nice meal. That is a shared activity. That's what date night, that's how I see it. We also like to remodel our house, and mostly. There's a lot of projects here, but that's something that we actually enjoy doing together. We enjoy planning, executing, doing all the things around that. We love to go on bike rides together. We both really enjoy that. So I want you to see date night not as a panacea of this will solve all your marriage issues and that's the investment of all investments. I just want you to see it as one type of investment in one category, and that of shared activities. Often I hear a partner tell me that they can't do it alone, right? Or they need their spouse to also invest in the marriage. And yes, 100% agree, that would be great. I totally agree with you. But I always ask, do you want to wait for your spouse to get on board and join you in, investing in creating this great marriage? Because you don't have to. If you want to wait, that's great, but you don't have to. One person willing to show up, make the investment is significant. Think back to the list of things that I shared with you that have been really powerful for me to see as investments in my marriage. Most of those things were not things I needed to be doing with my husband. Most of those things were not things my husband needed to be doing. Most of those things were things I could do 100% on my own. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, because a lot of times we think both people have to be 100% on board, 100% doing the same things in order for the marriage to be nourished, and that's not true. One person taking some time and effort to invest in and nourish their marriage can make a very, very significant difference. Okay, if you found this helpful, I'm going to suggest, or if you're like, yeah, I do need to invest in my marriage. This is something I have neglected. This isn't something I've really thought much about, and I haven't really considered different ways of investing in my marriage. Reach out to me. You can message me here. You can go to my website, brookebooth.com. Reach out to me on one of those venues and sign up for a free call where we can talk about your mixed faith marriage and the current investments you're making in it. And let's talk about how those investments, what kind of dividends they're creating for you now, and what kind of dividends you want to create. Because if you really want different results in your marriage, then I absolutely guarantee you need to be making different investment in your marriage. If what you're currently investing in is not getting you the results you want, you need to invest differently in your marriage to get different results. It's just that simple. And a great place to start is getting on a call with me, and let's find out what results you are creating in your marriage and what results you want to create in your marriage, and see if we can't figure out the very things necessary to create those desired results. All right, wishing you the best.